Hi, everybody. I'm here. I know it was a little touch and go. I know I was supposed to be here yesterday, but tonight I'm here. I'm here tonight. That's what matters most. Let it rain like trigger happen. This is one of my favorite songs. Not just favorite Miguel songs, but favorite songs. But I'm gonna pause it so that I can be present. Hello, everyone. Hello. I am Mambo Soleil. I am your reader for tonight. I am the Coven Mother of Vision of Dantor. I'm the founder and facilitator of the Charm School Mentorship Program, and I am your reader for tonight. I'm also a dope bitch straight up out of Oakland. Hello, hello, hello. Good to see you. It has been a while since I've done a happy hour reading. And I'm also not drinking right now. But if you're drinking, get your glass of wine, get whatever it is that brings you satisfaction. I have an icy cold sparkling water, guava berry, my current favorite hyperfixation. So that's what I'm going to crack open in a minute and enjoy with all of us. Just give me 1 second. Hi, Nicole. Hi, JL. Good to see the both of you. Give me one moment. I just want to take a second to share the link to the reading with a couple of groups. I'm going to get started a little later than normal because I also want to try and stream from my Facebook group today, and I don't think I've ever done that before. So hopefully it will allow me to do so. Give me 1 second while I finish sharing the YouTube link. So you guys know that in the past when I have done not study hall, sorry. That's the group I just posted this in. In the past when I have done happy hour, the way that I do it is that we mostly have a conversation, but I'm actually going to pull some cards tonight. I think it'll be beneficial for us if I pull cards about the things that I'm talking about. And then also just giving a little bit of perspective as to why I put together this particular string of topics, if that makes sense. Give me one moment. You know what I just realized? I don't think I know how to go live. Let's see. You know what? I don't think that I know how to do this. And I don't want to be severely distracted for those of you who are here and engaged. So we'll worry about that next time. Hi, Ami ASMR. It's good to see you. So yeah, I really wanted to make sure I did a happy hour reading this week because after Sunday, I'll definitely be here for Sunday for the weekly energy reading. But after that, I'm a little uncertain as to the next time that I'll be able to go live because I'll be traveling quite a bit. I start my in-person healing sessions next week, and the first batch is going to be in the Bay Area. So I won't be as easily available for a little bit. So I wanted us to come on here and have a couple of conversations. So I'm going to read what I have written in the title. If there is a collective touch point or collective topic that you guys do want us to talk about tonight, make sure you put that in the comments. The suggestions in the title are they're just things that I've been hearing people talk about recently. And that I think that are really important for us to do a little bit of reading on, but I'm open to other suggestions as well. So, why am I looking on my phone when it's right in my face? So the topics I have listed in the subtitle are Halle and DDG, NPD versus BPD. And for those of you who guys don't know what that acronym is, it's narcissistic personality disorder versus borderline personality disorder. And I'll explain why I think we should talk about that in just a second. And then I also want to spend a little time with us discussing the dangers of parasocial relationships. But let's start with Halle and DDG, just because I know that that's probably the thing that most people are most familiar with because it's still being discussed right now. If you have any specific questions related to Halle and DDG that you want to know, go ahead and put those in the comments. I'm gonna go ahead and crack open my sparkling water now. I wish I could drink. I low-key have to keep my energy clear because I'm gonna be doing so many sessions in the coming week, but I low-key wish that I had a glass of Prosecco right now. That would be so lit. For those of you who may not be tapped into pop culture, particularly, Halle Bailey is a young actress and singer. I know that they've been singing, her and her sister have been singing since they were little, but I only found out about them when that album they did at the start of the COVID pandemic took off, Ungodly Hour. Very, very talented young lady. Absolutely adorable. She looks like a little cherub, right? She was in a relationship with DDG, who I believe is a rapper and a streamer. They had a baby together. From what I understand, the pregnancy happened at a time that they were ending their relationship. And since the baby has been born, they have had all of the dramas and all of the karmic hallmarks of people who should not have, low-key should not have procreated. I don't know any other way to say it. And so the reason why they're in the news recently is because it started with Halle filing a restraining order against DDG so that she could have primary custody of her baby, take him to travel internationally. And he has since then filed a retaliatory, how do I explain it? Restraining order. So they're having a very, very public fight. And the child is being used as a prop. Both of them are. I know there are a lot of people who are highly on Halle's side, but no, both of them are using that poor child as a prop to exercise power over one another. And I mentioned Halle taking on her role as an adult star out of child stardom during the pandemic for a reason. There is a priestess that I follow. Actually, I don't think she wants me to talk about her publicly, but it's a lady that I work with back home, does amazing work. And she's been talking for years about how one of the impacts of the pandemic is that we are going to see a rise in people engaging in psychosadistic behavior. When we talk about psychosadism, what does that mean? It is exactly what it sounds like. It is people who are sadistic, but that get off on causing someone emotional and psychological pain, right? The way that DDG brings up Halle's private business on streams and weaponizes his fans against him with this sole intention of embarrassing and controlling her, that is psychosadistic behavior. Now, Halle's hands are not clean from what I understand now that those texts have come out. Weaponizing suicide to try and control another person, whether those suicidal ideations are real or not, that is a form of abuse. I think that because his abuse is overt and hers is covert, and she is postpartum, like postpartum depression ain't no help, right? I think because of those things going on, we give her a lot of excuses, and that's not okay. Both of them are engaging in severely abusive, psychosadistic behavior. And I think it's really important that we're honest about that, right? I think it's really important that we acknowledge that, because here's the thing. When we get wrapped up in the right or wrong, when we get wrapped up in the parasocial relationship of it, when we get wrapped up in choosing a team, like this is fucking football or something, we end up excusing behaviors that are not okay, that are unhealthy and low-key unholy. This is fucked up, right? Why is DDG's mom such a pick-me-ass bitch? I'm going to say something that is really unpopular and that may upset some people, but most boy moms are. Most boy moms are. And if you get a boy mom that's a single mother that has raised their son or their sons to meet the emotional needs of their absent husband, they end up being pick-me bitches. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen those clips of women on the internet who will literally like leap on their sons and wrap their legs around them like they're their girlfriends. There's a lot of unhealthy, emotionally incestuous clinging that happens with pick-me women who then become mothers of boys. And so I know nothing about his mother. I don't think I've read anything about her, but based off of what you're saying in your experience, I am not shocked that she is a pick-me-ass bitch. These boy moms defend their sons' abusive behaviors. Yeah, this is why I do not date men who have mommy issues. Men who have severe codependency with their mothers, I do not deal with it. I do not engage. I do not date them. Yes, she has 2 sons who fight with their baby mothers publicly. She probably gets off on that. Again, going back to this discussion of psychosadistic behavior, pick-me women love triangulation. They love to be up under the arms of men who get off on triangulating women. And most men who have these emotionally incestuous relationships with their mother will always engage in triangulation, where they pit their mother and their partners against one another. So I'm in no way shocked. Do people have any questions that they want me to ask the cards about Halle and DDG? Any questions? I'll start with something super general. I just want to get a touch. I just want to touch on where Halle is emotionally, because one thing, again, everything that I'm saying is for entertainment purposes. Everything I address is under fair use. I am not an expert. I am a life. Let me rephrase that. I am an expert. I am a life coach. I have education in psychology, but I'm not a trained clinical psychologist. So anything that I say is speculation in the name of entertainment. But I think that if we were looking at these 2 people that are engaging in severe psychosadistic behavior and thinking about potential diagnoses that they may be dealing with, it's really clear, allegedly, that NPD, DDG most likely suffers from NPD. He definitely has severe narcissistic traits that are very overt. And Halle deals with BPD. And that's why her narcissism is much more covert. That's why a lot of her abuse takes place around abandonment and feeling like she doesn't have help. If you look at those text messages, it's unnerving. It's really sad. I hope that she is getting, the spiritual help and the psychological support that she needs, if she really does deal with suicidal ideation. But there's a lot going on. Why didn't Halle heed the warning of her own fans about DDG? That is a great question, Francine. I'm going to get into that. That's a great question to start with, because that's one of the things that a lot of people are saying, right? This whole situation was avoidable. Sisters, angels, ascended masters, spirits of walk with me, my related ancestors. Why did Halle not heed the warnings of her fan base? Why did she not listen to her fans and the people in her community that warned her about this relationship? Any wisdom shared is deeply appreciated. I love your question, JL, and I'm definitely going to get to it after this first question. Anyone else that has questions about Halle and DDG, put those in the comments and I will get to them as I can, okay? How's everybody's week been? My week has been quite sluggish. I have been dealing with severe exhaustion, but I think a lot of it has to do, as I said, I'm trying to rush and finish workings, finish creating my potions and my ingredients and things before I hit the ground running. I love doing my in-person healing sessions. They make me so happy. I love working with you guys over the internet as well, those who I've not had the pleasure of meeting face-to-face, but the in-person healing sessions are different. Okay, there are several things going at play here. Several things at play. Okay. Um, and I'll get into the individual cards so that way you guys can understand where I'm going. But I want to start with the general at first. When you are a child star and when you are in very much a sheltered bubble, there is a certain level of entitlement. No matter how good of a person you are, there's a certain level of entitlement, right? Because you have had the experience of being a child star and being able to charm your way into getting the things that you want, right? That mixed with, you got to remember, she got with him when she was in her early 20s. Libido was racing, right? Desires running high, Cupid's arrows. When you match all of that with an energy of someone who was just raised in a way that was really, really, really sheltered, right? So aside from the child star stuff, I get that her parents just sheltered her from a lot of things. So this poor baby was never really put up on game like that about how to date, how to acknowledge red flags. So with her, there was a bit of a spiritual and emotional confusion where she thought that if she just catered to and sacrificed for enough, that she could win this person's loyalty. So the long and the short of it is she didn't listen to y'all because she was moving from her loins and her desires. Very first card, sun card. Baby gets what baby wants. This is Leo energy, right? Leos are very charming, and it's easy for them to charm their ways into getting the things that they want from people, from situations, right? I always say that Leos tend to fail up, and that has a lot to do with that halo effect, no pun intended, that they naturally have as Leonic people. When you match that with somebody who she found him deeply attractive, I think that this is probably for her. And now you guys don't, before you start clowning, because I know some people don't think that DDG is attractive. I think he's an attractive kid, but he looked a little slow on the face. That has nothing to do with him being attractive, though. But I think for her, this is probably one of the more attractive men, particularly Black men, that wanted to date her. She's very young. You have to remember that. Early 20s, very sheltered. So huge part of the reason why she wasn't listening is because Cupid's arrows were at play. Her loins were triggered, right? And a lot of people are not able to listen when lust is involved. That's just the reality of the situation. Now, I want to get into this Page of Cups, Pisces energy. I think that she has a lot of romanticism. I think, even like not just her being a Disney princess, but being trained by Disney, rom-coms, that kind of stuff. There's a little bit of escapism and delusion about love, a whole lot of idealization about love. And then when you match that with the Piscean martyrdom dynamic, she felt like if she were just loyal enough, ride or die enough, sacrificial enough, it would make him, for lack of better words, submit to her and return her loyalty. Now, we all know as adult people, I assume that the majority of you all who are watching are over 25. So your prefrontal has, been fully developed. You are solid in your thinking, your logic, and your understanding. We know that typically when you martyr yourself for other people, when you are the ride or dies die, right? That's the thing that sucks about that fucking phrase. Like, it's you ride or you die, or, you ride until you die, right? We know logically that this was a painful chapter that was not going to end well. So the thing about the Ten of Swords, and one of the dynamics that can make it hard for people to understand or accept a painful ending, is that they don't want to deal with the shame, right? They don't want to deal with the projections around embarrassment. So that's another thing. I think she was deeply dedicated to, you got to remember she's an Aries, and a lot of Aries is the initiator. Aries believe that they can bulldoze their way into things. And sometimes they can, but a lot of times they end up bumping their head, ramming their head, right? And I think she just wanted to believe that this was not going to end painfully, and that if she isolated and incubated herself from the world and kept her business to herself, that again, that would offer her the privacy to figure out a way to construct how she wanted this to be, right? She prayed. She was a little prayer warrior. She prayed so hard, still prays about this relationship. I think her prayers have shifted over time, and it's not so much, I hope me and Daryl work out. It's more of, I hope me and Daryl can come to a place of calm for the sake of the baby. But I think the long and the short of it is that this was her first real big love. This was the first time that she felt herself being deeply and somewhat recklessly attracted to a man. She deeply wanted to believe that if she could show up as loyal and sacrificial as possible, that would be enough to get the result she wanted. But we know that that's not how it works. The more sacrificial you are, the more gracious you are with some people, especially people who thrive off of psychosadistic dynamics, the worse it is. Because if you show up as somebody who is a martyr, they'll get off on that and they'll just want to hurt you more and more. I had to learn that the hard way in the last year in my life. And unfortunately, that's why she didn't listen. That's the long and the short of why she did not listen. Thank you for that question, KFS. Has her relationship with DDG ruined her career? I hope not. I really, really hope not. But let's see. Let's see what the cards have to say. Ami ASMR, I'm glad you're covering this topic. I was just looking at these two this morning. Yeah, I hate this for them. I hate this for them. And I know that people are kind of dogpiling on DDG, and it's really easy to do that with the man in the situation. But this is a young man who is, he's young. 27 is not very old. It's way too close to 30 to be acting like this. But I don't think that he fully understands the weight of what he says and his actions. And so I do hate that this is how his legacy is going to be remembered. I hate that this is going to be a part of his memory. But let's see. Ancestors, angels, ascended masters, spirits that walk with me, my elevated ancestors. Will the relationship with DDG ruin Halle's career? Will the relationship with DDG ruin Halle's career? And if so, how? Is this something that she can recover from? If so, what does that look like? Any wisdom shared is deeply appreciated. Hey, Aja, good to see you. Any other questions about Halle and DDG? Go ahead and put them in the chat. I think I'll do 2 more questions after this, and then I want to get into a discussion about parasocial relationships. Because even though they did come along to meet each other, there was a parasocial dynamic to their relationship, right? And I think that I'm gonna save it till we get there. But I think that especially in this year, this being a year of 9, us having a lot of really heavy Saturn activity taking place multiple different times during this year, I think evaluating parasocial relationships is going to be something that we absolutely need to do in the name of spiritual safety. If she does not walk away from him, it will. I hate that for her. I hate that for her. But if she does not walk away from him, and if she does not realize and envision a future without him, if she continues to engage in this back and forth with him, and if she refuses to learn from this heartbreak and move on, it will fuck up her career. It will absolutely fuck up her career. And I hate that for her. But very first card we have is the 7 of Cups. She has a lot of confusion about her options for the future. There are still a lot of options in front of her, but her emotions are so jumbled right now that it's really hard for her to understand and to really think about how to move forward. I know it's easier said than done because she's in the entertainment industry And a lot of the options that come to you, you have to move fast and make agreements quickly. But in an ideal world, if she could slow down and give herself a few weeks, if not a few months, before making big decisions, that would be the biggest thing for her. She really needs some isolation. She would benefit from going off the grid. Definitely would benefit from going off the grid. Going off of the grid, not engaging in social media, allowing herself to sit with her intuition, to tap into Ori and envision a future moving forward for herself. That's what her spirit needs right now. She needs unencumbered time with herself and with her spirits to really heal and realign after what happened. But again, she's in the entertainment industry, which is go, 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 go. And that's not the best strategy for her right now. She is acting in a lot of poor strategy. Hustle culture and bulldozing beyond your feelings and not dealing with experiences is not good war strategy. Because if you never allow yourself the time for recuperation and healing, you will wear yourself out with the fight. And right now, her vision and her perspective is not clear. I'm going to read these cards together because they were stuck together. 8 of Cups, clarified by the Justice card. Okay? If she can walk away from him and just let this situation die, let the courts help her in terms of figuring out a custody agreement and just end trying to have reconciliation with him, then she will do well in the future. Karma is, justice is karma. It's getting back what you put into a situation, right? So again, a lot of what's happening right now is because she would not walk away and leave him alone, right? You can't force somebody to love you and to be the form of support that you want them to be. When people show you who you are, believe them, right? And so when he first started showing her that he didn't fucking care about her feelings and that, he didn't want to be with her, she should have accepted that. So everything she's experiencing right now is a result of her own karma and being hard-headed. Again, that Aries energy, trying to bulldoze, trying to control, trying to take hold of the thing, right? If she can switch her actions and shift, then yes, she will have a good career. She'll be able to salvage her reputation. She'll be able to benefit from the hard work that she's put into her life and her work. But she really has to shift her focus. And instead of focusing on having faith in him to be a good partner and a co-parent, she has to focus on her faith in self, in her career, in what matters most, right? But it all comes down to, we end with the 3 of Swords. So honestly, JL, it all comes down to whether or not she has the capacity to learn from her heartbreak as opposed to letting her heartbreak rule her, right? Because that's the thing about the 3 of Swords. If we can learn from the heartbreak, it makes us better. It sharpens our discernment. We move in ways that don't allow us to experience that again. But when we stagnate in the energy of 3 of Swords, when we let the heartbreak run us, we end up engaging in all kind of fucked up behavior because we end up ruminating and repeating the cycle over and over again. So I hate this for her. I absolutely hate this for her. But the answer to your question is the career is not ruined yet, but if she keeps up with this behavior and if she continues to refuse to acknowledge the reality and the weight of her situation, then yes, it absolutely will fuck up her career. Hate that for her. Hate that for this little baby, but that's the reality of the situation. Wrapped in love. I too hate that. I hate it as well. I absolutely hate that for her. That little girl is so freaking talented. Absolutely brilliant. One of the most amazing voices we have in the industry right now. I don't know how many of you guys are a Leon Thomas fan. Huge Leon Thomas fan. Absolutely love him. But if you listen to the deluxe version of his album, he has a song on there with Halle. And I feel like that is the best use of her voice and her talent that I've heard since she did that Ungodly Hour album with her sister. So I wish that baby the best. I absolutely do. Any other questions before Halle and DDG before we start talking about NPD, BPD, and the dangers of parasocial relationships? Any questions on Halle and DDG? Good question, Tori. How is this scandal affecting DDG? Great question. Ancestors, angels, ascended masters, spirits that walk with me, and elevated ancestors. How is the scandal impacting Daryl? What can you tell us about his emotional state and how he is coping with the situation? Any wisdom shared is deeply appreciated. Okay, thank you, Jail. That's a good question. I'm probably going to wrap up with that question, and then we'll move into the next topic after I'm done answering Tori's question. For those of you who are just trickling in, start thinking of questions that you want to ask me or ask the cards, so that way I can make sure everybody, that we're having the collective conversation that we want to have. I hope you, what are you sipping? If any of you guys are sipping on anything, any wine, any spirits at this time, let me know. I got to live vicariously through y'all because I'm fasting from alcohol. And I need to live vicariously through y'all. Would love a little shot of rum or something right now, but the sparkling water is going to have to do. But when I come back for the next happy hour, I will definitely have a cocktail with all of y'all. Anybody sipping on anything fun, share it in the comments. Poor thing. Okay. It is impacting him financially. It's impacting him financially. The good thing about him is that, so DDG has a lot of entertainment friends, and that's what we see on the stream. But he also is surrounded by a lot of people that he grew up with, and not just his family. I know we were just talking about his mother and his brother's behavior, but DDG, he's surrounded just by a lot of people that have seen him since he was much younger. So emotionally, that has been helpful for him because these are the people in his life that really know him, right? They don't just know whatever mistakes and mishaps he's made in this situation. They know him as a person. And so that's been really helpful. He's been able to really bask in the nostalgia of being surrounded by people who remind him of who he is, how far he's come. And that's been really helpful for him in terms of coping. He prays a lot too. I know we talked about Halle praying, but he prays a lot too. And not only does he pray a lot, he has a lot of people around him praying. So spiritual discipline is really helping him right now. He's really leaning on the Lord. He's leaning on his spiritual practices. He's leaning on words around spirituality and affirmation around spirituality from the people in his life that he trusts. I'm getting an intuitive message from this Hierophant, so I'm going to pull a clarifier just to make sure that what I'm feeling is correct. Clarify the Hierophant further, ancestors. Clarify the Hierophant further. Please, Spirit Guides, clarify the Hierophant a little further. He has authority figures around him. Authority figures. You may want to call them healers. You may want to call them priests. He would not call them priests or priestesses. He does not see this as rooted in hoodoo or anything else. But, you know, what people do is what people do. But he does have authority figures around him who are actively praying for the protection and the preservation of his legacy and of his career. It's almost like he doesn't even have, he's concerned about his legacy, but he really doesn't have emotional capacity for that. So he's literally putting that in the hands of his trusted authority figures and spiritual advisors that are around him, if you pick up what I'm putting down with the Hierophant, okay? But he has seen an impact to his money. He's seen it. It's there. It does worry him. It absolutely worries him. Wrapped in Love says, remember, they are from a Christian background. Who is they? Is it both Halle and DDG? Because I know Halle is. A, B, Christians be doing hoodoo. So I hear you, but Christians be doing hoodoo. They may not share it with their church. They may not let their colleagues know. But I'll say it this way. I have a lot of clients that are deeply, deeply Christian. And they'll come to me before they go to their pastor. Okay, baby? But his money has been impacted, and that is definitely a worry and a concern that he has, and it's a frustration that he's really navigating right now. I'll say this. It would be dope if Halle could get to the space of emotional confidence that he's at. Because here's the thing about him. He trusts his fan base immensely. He really believes in his fan base. And he has a deep belief that he's going to overcome all of this because of the kind of influence that he has, because of the amount of eyes that are on him, and the amount of people that really just want to see him win. That's the thing about Six of Wands energy. People want to see you win. They see your progress. They see your hustle. They see how far you've come. And they themselves, your peer group, ends up having a deep investment in seeing you win. And this is a lot of what he's leaning on right now. And this is what he's counting on. He is starting to have change of heart. He's starting to see more of his role and how all this unfolded. It's been a painful lesson because he low-key can't even escape the judgment and the opinions of people, but it has forced him into taking a broader perspective and looking at his situation with soft eyes so he can see how his actions got him here, right? Main thing that I'm getting intuitively with this hangman is a year and a half ago when people were trying to tell him that he antagonizes her on the internet, he didn't understand or feel it that way. Again, going back to the Six of Wands, because his audience was gassing him up to do these things, right? But I think that now that the stakes are so high, especially around his baby, right? Because remember, a lot of times we end up suffering some sort of loss that puts us into that hangman moment, right? I think he's going through a reevaluation when he understands how his actions have gotten him here. It's going to be slow, but we will see a little bit of maturation in him moving forward. We're definitely going to see him leave a lot of his behavior behind. I sincerely doubt we see another video of him arguing with an AI Halle. I think the consequences of that situation are something that he really wants to just leave behind and evolve past and be better than, right? So to summarize this, it is affecting him. The main way that it is affecting him is in his money, in his pockets. But he'll recover from that, especially because he has elders around him, praying for him, praying over his legacy. He has the blessing of having a lot of family and friends that have watched him grow up around him. And that is keeping him emotionally and mentally strong. At the same time, he is having a lot of reflection about his behavior and how his behaviors put him in this situation. So I don't think it'll be immediate, but we will see some sort of maturation come from him as a result of that. Okay. Will Halle get full custody of Halo? That's a great question. Ancestors, angels, ascended masters, spirits walk with me, and elevated ancestors. Will Halle get full custody of Halo? Will Halle get full custody of Halo? If so, what does that look like? If not, what does that look like for Halle and DDG moving forward? The shared custody agreement. Any wisdom shared is deeply appreciated. We'll end with Ami's question, and then I do want to wrap up a little bit with talking about parasocial relationships and how they set people up to engage in psychosadistic behavior. Ami wants to know. Oh, sorry, I didn't answer JL's question. Sorry. Wrapped in Love, can you clarify? I'm still waiting for you to clarify your statement. Is it both Halle and DDG that were raised in Christian environments, or was it just one of them? Because that'll help me more in terms of understanding. Oh, okay. I did not want to believe that that would happen. Y'all, I'm not gonna sit here and cry. I'm not gonna cry over no Halle Page and DDG. I know that. You're not gonna bring no tears out of me tonight. If he can manage his emotions, if he can really tap into emotional maturity and move that way, then she won't get full custody. There is going to they are both going to exhaust a lot of resources and a lot of time around this fight. Both of them are. That's very, very clear. But if he continues to antagonize her publicly, if he continues to try to use the public landscape to sun her and to dominate her, he will lose custody of that baby. He will. He will. In addition to that, and this is why I'm fighting back the urge to release right now in terms of tears, either way, Halo is impacted. Either way, Halo is impacted, and that's coming through clearly in the cards. He's a toddler now, but in a few years when he's old enough to understand and these things get back up in the zeitgeist, it's going to mess up this baby. And that's what's unfortunate. Two of Swords, there's going to be a lot of back and forth, a lot of arguing, a lot of fighting, a lot of indecision, a lot of stagnating around this case. They themselves are going to have a back and forth and a tug of war where one moment they're like, fuck it, no custody, or not no custody, F it, I don't care. And then another moment they are wrapped up in nostalgia and they feel bad. So both of them are not even standing 10 toes in how they're handling this, right? And that indecision is going to lead to a lot of stalling and stagnation in any custody battle that they have. Spirit would really love to see both of them sit individually and really draft up and dream up a new vision around how to co-parent. That would be the ideal situation. If you're still with me, hit the scale emojis. You guys let me know that you're still here and you're still involved, that you're still present. They are also going to waste a lot of money. This is going to be a very expensive process for them. It's not that they don't have good lawyers. It's not that simple. But because of the weight of this situation and both of them having public personas, their lawyers are going to manipulate them and bleed them dry. So both of them, remember, Four of Pentacles is clutching your penny so tight that you end up moving from desperation at the end of the day, and then you end up getting taken advantage of, right? Four of Pentacles is the card of the pyramid scheme. So had they dealt with this custody agreement before the baby was born or when the baby was first born, I think that it could have saved them a lot of money in the end. But now, because things are very volatile, their lawyers, their publicists, the people around them are going to predate on them financially. So both of them are going to lose a lot of money in this process. They have to find the courage to be kinder to each other. They both have to look at this challenge with compromise, but they're not at a space where they are capable or even have the desire to do that right now. So because of that, we got the Tower. There is a high possibility that he could end up losing custody to Halo. There's a very high possibility. And I pulled clarifiers over this Tower to see why. Seven of Wands, he has to stop antagonizing her. If he does not stop antagonizing her and putting her in an environment where the public is attacking her, because it does violate her safety, right? It does put her and the baby in danger. So if he doesn't stop doing that, if he keeps trying to humble her and bring her down to size through embarrassment, that will reflect negatively on him in the court. If he cannot gain control over his emotions and confidence in his emotions and rein his behavior in, that will lead to a Tower moment where he does lose custody of the baby, right? And then we end with the Page of Cups, which is like the Spirit is just basically saying whether he has joint custody or he loses custody, this behavior has already had a negative impact on that little boy. That little boy is already dealing with an emotional confusion and disconnection from reality. We can't see it because, again, he's a toddler. Baby can barely talk. But as he gets older and as he has deeper understanding of social media, of pop culture, of what his father has done to his mother and vice versa, that's really going to fuck him up emotionally. So I didn't want that to be true. I never want to see families split up. I always want to see people have enough maturity to prioritize the child first. But unfortunately, if he keeps going at the rate that he is, if he doesn't stop this behavior, he can fuck around and lose custody of that baby. Halle could absolutely get full custody of that baby. Okay, we're going to end with Ami's question. Also, the baby has seen both of them fight. The baby has seen both of them fight. People should not be physically fighting in relationships. There's a way, and please know, I'm a survivor of domestic violence. I am in no way blaming Haley. But I will say this. I have people in my life I love that are really short. I know that's going to sound crazy. But there is a thing that happens sometimes where really small women think that when they hit or when they're physically violent, it doesn't hurt. And it does. And it's not appropriate because you're giving the child the message that it's okay. Both of them have enacted physical violence against one another, and both of them are out of line for it. So I just wanted to say that. Since most of us are past 25 and have had our first love, what do we need to take or learn from the situation with Halle and DDG? I think that is a fantastic question, Ami. Because I'm going to be really honest, that was another part of the reason why I didn't want to do this reading. I was like, I did not want to get my grown ass on here and talk about the relationship fallout between a Disney princess and a streamer. But you are right. And I think you're reminding me, and I needed to be reminded. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ami. I only ever want to do pop culture readings if there's something that we can learn as a collective, right? So thank you for bringing that home. I think that's a perfect way to wrap up this part of the conversation and then trickle on over into our discussion on parasocial relationships. Ancestors, angels, ascended masters, spirits will walk with me. What do we as a collective learn from the situation with Halle and DDG? What do we as a collective learn? Especially those of us who may be older in years than them. Even those who are younger, those of us who may not be in their peer group, but who are witnessing this unfortunate family fallout happen on a public scale. What do we learn? What is the wisdom that we can walk away with that strengthens our habits and behaviors and sharpens our discernment? Any wisdom shared is deeply appreciated. We need to learn how to fight. We need to learn how to fight in a way that's healthy. And what I mean by that is that every battle is not worth going to war over. Everything is not worth trying to cut out the jugular. See, well, Lord, thank you, God. I be thinking that the stuff I come up with to talk about don't relate to one another. And then once I start pulling the cards, Spirit is like, no, this is all working together, right? Half the time, a lot of the arguments that we make worse by letting ego, by letting our triggers, by letting our need to win or to dominate take hold or run rampant, a lot of those arguments are only made worse because instead of walking away and cooling off, we lean into them. right? So that is a big lesson that a lot of us who are watching this, whether it's live or in the replay, really, really need to learn. When you are having an argument and you feel triggered, sit with yourself. Don't, it might not be the best time to lean into the argument, because that's when you will say and do things that you do not mean. That's when you will overburden yourself and make a situation worse. You will create more baggage that is difficult to unload, to release, to let go of, right? So learning how to argue, learning how to fight with the people that we claim to love or the people that we are in community with, that is a huge lesson that as a collective we need to learn. Again, that rise in psycho-sadist behavior, we feel like we got to hurt. And the only way to win, we get so wrapped up in the winning of an argument that we will win at any cost. And a lot of times we do a lot of psychological and emotional damage. And all that does is turn into more weight that people have to carry, right? So really sharpening that skill set around understanding how to fight with people that you love. Conflict is a part of life. Conflict is a part of life. You are going to have arguments with people that you love, but you have to learn how to argue with them like you love them. And that is a skill set that will set you up not only for your love relationships, but in business, right? There are disagreements in business. In business, you can't look at your business partner and call them a whack ass bitch and knock their tooth out and tell them, bitch, get out my car, and take pictures of their bedroom. Like, those are not things that you can do. It's unprofessional, right? So yes, this is about community, but it's also about having healthy habits that spill over into other areas of life. Learning that sometimes you need to change how you communicate. The way that you communicate with your boys is not the way that you communicate with your lover. The way that you may argue with your sister is not the way that you argue with your man. So having a shift in how it is we communicate with people is something that we need to learn as a collective. But again, learning how to fight strategically in a way that is helpful. Learning that maybe you have to take a loss in the moment in order to have a gain in the future, to have a win in the future in terms of war strategy. Those are all things that we all have to learn as a collective. Because here's the thing, again, going back to this discussion of psycho-sadist behavior, it may make you feel good in the moment if you are a sick ass person who thinks it's okay to hurt people to feel good about yourself. But what does it cost you? How does it translate to restriction and loss in your life? Not just in terms of material resources with the pinnacles, but also just your health and your well-being, right? I have seen people think that they're getting over on me by verbally abusing me and trying to pull a reaction out of me. And as tempting as it would be in that moment to call them monkey ass bitches and talk about how their mama should have swallowed in order to protect the earth from their asshole behavior, I don't do that because I know that in the bigger strategy, whatever reaction will be just weaponized against me later. And I'm not the luxury of having being one of those people that has nothing to lose in life, right? So yeah, it may suck to be the moon and have the dog barking at you, but if you turn around and bark back, you lose a lot. People gonna look at you crazy, right? So one of the main things we need to learn from watching Halle and DDG is being honest with ourselves about the ways in which we lack emotional control and an ability to argue and deal with conflict in healthy ways, right? I think there are a lot of us that want to believe that just because we're older, we would have handled this differently. Your age may not have an impact on that if you didn't learn what it looks like to have healthy conflict with people and still be able to move with love with them after the healthy conflict, right? And understanding, like, if I'm moving from a place of prioritizing a desire for psycho-sadistic behavior, that does not allow me to have healthy connection to whoever it is I'm claiming to love. So that's what we need to learn from the situation. All righty. Anybody have any other questions on Halle and DDG before we wrap up with talking about parasocial relationships? No other comments right now. Okay. So we know, a lot of us know what the Bible says about how we aren't just at war with people, but we're at war with principalities, right? I think that there's a really particular way that social media, especially in the light of the loneliness epidemic, post pandemic, a lot of people are in denial about how they have not healed from that period of forced isolation that happened between 2020 and 2021. I think a lot of people have been meant to sit and stew, not only in their bitterness, but in their bigotries and their biases, right? Now, what does that have to do, Soleil, with parasocial relationships? A parasocial relationship will never be safe because you don't fucking know that person. A parasocial relationship will never be safe because you don't know that person. I'll say it one more time. You guys know I love a 3. A parasocial relationship will never be safe because you don't know that person. In a parasocial relationship, what you are doing is you are projecting your understandings and your desires onto someone that you have never met. And that is dangerous. And it will always be dangerous, right? We live in a day and age where the majority of us are dating online. We're dating through apps. We are committing and sharing our desires with people that we barely know. And then so once they do something to us, to hurt us, to violate our sense of self, to put us in confusion, we feel like we've been thrown off kilter. But the reality is you don't fucking know that person. And I think, especially in this day and age with everything that's going on right now, I'm teaching a class on the 24th called Protect Your Neck, Guarding Yourself from Spiritual Psychosis. Give me the words, ancestors. Help me say this with as much wisdom and discretion as possible. If we aren't careful about our parasocial relationships, if we aren't careful as adults to challenge ourselves with the assumptions that we make about the people that we meet online, we will only set ourselves up for further predation. There are a lot of people, whether it's intentional because they're fully healthy and mentally and they just are predatory people and narcissistic people and want to predate on other people. But then there are also those people who just aren't mentally safe, right? I was having this conversation with someone the other day. Before I started studying Vodou, I was moving from my very American, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, individualist perspective around Vodou and African spirituality and gatekeeping. And, you know, as a Black person in the US who's been gate kept out of education, not myself, but there's a history of Black people being gate kept out of education, being gate kept out of neighborhoods. What do you think redlining is, right? My relationship to gatekeeping was one of, well, that's me. That's oppressive. And you don't do that to people. Everybody should have access. Fast forward 6 years later, understanding the nature of Vodou, understanding the nature of spiritual work, understanding what it means to be working with spirits that are very, very complicated, I more than ever believe in the gatekeeping within religious communities. Everybody is not morally sound. Everyone does not have the ethics to handle the wisdom and the access to spirit responsibly. And let's just break it down to brass tacks. Some people aren't mentally healthy. Most people are not mentally healthy. Not mentally healthy enough to handle the wisdom that they have about spirit and spirituality. A lot of y'all who have heavy generational curses over you or hexes that were put on your family, those were put by somebody who was spiritually and mentally ill. Only a mentally ill person would think, let me hex you because you want to break up with me. Or let me hex you because you were my friend and you don't want to talk to me anymore. Or let me hex you because how dare you date my baby daddy even though I don't want him. I just don't want him to be with somebody and I don't want him to be happy. People who move that way do not deserve access to spiritual codes. They will do wreck and damage to the world. So yes, I now believe more in gatekeeping because of that. What does that have to do with parasocial relationships? You do not know everybody who claims to know you. You do not know everybody just because they have a good social media presence. And so in order to protect ourselves, we have to start asking more questions. We have to move with more discernment for ourselves, right? If the math ain't mathing, you're not wrong for seeing that, right? And I think that's the thing that happens with a parasocial relationship. I have been involved in situations where because somebody thought that they knew me from online, they have projected all this weird shit onto me. And then when I finally meet them, they're love bombing me. They're claiming all this access to me and knowledge about me when I've never fucking met them. But they've developed a whole entire relationship with me in their mind. And then based off of their projections, based off of that one-sided relationship they have in their mind, there's an expectation that I show up in the world that way, right? That is dangerous. That is dangerous. Not only for the person that's doing it because you're going to get let down, but for the person that has those things being projected onto them, right? Because there's no telling. I've literally been in situations where I've walked into a room and somebody is seething with anger towards me that I've never met based off of the fact that I did not get to their question on one of these lives. I kid you not. I wish I was lying. I can tell you the exact date that happened because it was so bananas to me, right? Parasocial relationships are a huge part of the reason why we don't know how to have relationships in real life. I'll say it again. Parasocial relationships are a part of the reason why we don't know how to have relationships in real life. I think that when you have these one-sided relationships and conversations with and about people, it makes it so that you don't know how to interact with people in the flesh. And we are getting more and more disconnected from one another. That is only going to get worse and further exacerbated with the rise of AI. It's only going to get worse with the rise of AI. A lot of these little babies, these little teenage boys don't even know when they're looking at a real woman or when they're looking at an AI image anymore. So what happens is they're developing these deep relationships and these deep desires and these deep attachments to literal artwork. And then they resent the women of flesh and blood who have real bodies and real faces that are all around them. That is only going to further drive them into isolation because they don't want real women. They want to fuck robots. They want to fuck images, right? Parasocial relationships are really, really fucking up our society in concrete ways. And I think it's important that we, especially as spiritual people, that we not only interrogate it, but that we arm ourselves against it, right? Put in language in your prayers about people understanding and respecting your human form. Put language in your prayers about not allowing people who are addicted to technology and the internet to change your view of self. Those are all things. ChatGPT is about to fuck everybody up. The amount of y'all that are going to invite all kinds of demons and hates and shit into your life because you're getting your spiritual information off of ChatGPT is disgusting. It's really about to mess people up. Do people have any questions about parasocial relationships, about AI, about the current shift that's leading to further isolation in communities? Does anybody have any questions about those things? I'm happy to take a question or two. If not, then I'll just go ahead and wrap up for the evening. As you're typing out your questions, I'll go ahead and update you guys on some of the things I'm working on. I will be in the Bay Area next week doing in-person healing sessions. I do have 3 slots left open. So if there's anybody that is in the Bay Area or who just in California or Nevada and willing to drive up to the Bay Area who wants to meet me to get some spiritual work done, let me know. Reach out to me. The link to the chat is in the comments below, or you can just text me at 404-654-3682 404-3246, 404-654-3246. That is my work and business helpline. I do a course sale every June, and I forgot about it this year until yesterday, so I apologize. But I usually do, I either call it the online course sale or I call it the summer school sale. And I always do it in the month of June of every year. So that sale is now up and going. I've edited all of the courses on my website. So you can buy courses from me for as low as $11.11. You can get course bundles, so 2 or 3 more courses for $22.22. You can also purchase whole terms of my Charm School mentorship program for $88.88. So that sale lasts the entire month of June. So if you are interested, if you've been wanting to take classes with me, but you don't have the time or the resources to enroll in Charm School or Study Hall, the online course sale is the best time to get some of my classes. And I have updated. It had been almost 9 months since I updated the courses available on my site. I know, bad me. But I did update, and so a lot of my new courses are listed. So my course for Enchanting Wasp Nests for both protection and prosperity, that's up on the website. My course on, just taught it this week. What was it? I'm so tired. I just taught it. What did I teach on Wednesday? Tori, you were there. What did I teach on Wednesday? My memory is really, really blanking right now. Shadow work for healers. I taught a course on shadow work for healers. And it focuses on how to process grief. And it discusses why healers need shadow work and you low-key shouldn't trust healers that don't do their shadow work. And it has a really powerful meditation in there that helps you start your journey around the processing of ancestral grief. So those are all some new classes that I've added to the website. So definitely go look at the website, take advantage of the online course sale, especially if you've been wanting to take classes with me, but budget has been an issue. This is the best time. Again, classes are $11.11, $22.22. Y'all got it. Y'all can handle that. Y'all may not be able to handle mentorship dues, but y'all can definitely handle $11.11 for a class. The next round of Rich Spirit starts second week of July. If you're interested in signing up for that, hit the link below. My Gold and Shadow readings, those financial blockage readings called Gold and Shadow, will only be available at a discounted rate for the rest of June. So if you want to get it while it's at the discounted rate of $85, you can click the link below. Parasocial relationships and erectile dysfunction worry me. They go hand in hand. They fucking go. You are so wise, Francine. You are a smart little cookie. They go hand in hand. These men are not doing well in the bedroom. I remember being in grad school more than a decade ago and having these conversations with my former mentor, Murray Miller-Young. And even though she didn't do work around sex and sexuality, I felt like this came up at one point in one of Gay Johnson's classes as well. But I remember having these conversations when I was a grad student with different professors. The pornification of society, when you mix that with the super isolation that has happened and has become normalized post-pandemic. Yeah, these two things together they have me really, really worried for men. These little boys literally, younger and younger, I'm talking 19, 20 years old, 21, and cannot keep an erection because they are so tricked out on pornography. They are so isolated. The only sex they are having is with their hands and with sex toys, because there's a rise in men using sex toys now. They literally have like weird masturbation sleeves. I'm mad that I did that motion. Weird masturbation sleeves that are electronic. So yeah, these poor babies cannot even keep an erection. So even if they were able to find a way to get past their awkwardness and to get past their unrealistic expectations about the bodies of women and get into a relationship, they don't know how to satisfy someone sexually or to be satisfied with real sex. That is dangerous, right? And I know people have their gripes with Islam. I personally don't. I think it's a beautiful religion, but I know that people have their gripes with Islam. But that's one thing I can say. The Muslims have been warning us about this for literal decades. For at least, from what I'm aware of, for at least 4 decades, they have been warning us about this in the West. And that they have been saying that the West has a sexuality problem and that we are hyper pornographied, hypersexualized, and that disconnection from our body and that disconnection from the appreciation of the female form is going to bring us closer to demonic dispositions. They've been saying this. None of this is new. None of this is new. We are all collectively talking about it now that, let's be real, it's too late. But this has been a concern from people who are really tapped in spiritually for decades now. What can we do as a community to heal from the isolation? I think that's a great question. If anyone has another question, I will take it along with Tori's question. If not, then I'll wrap up with Tori's question and we'll go ahead and duck out for the evening. If anyone would like to send a love offering and appreciation for the entertainment I provided tonight, my Cash App and my PayPal are scrolling below. But if you can't, no worries. This is a free offering and it's meant to be free. And if you don't have the money to send a love offering, share this video with somebody that you know will be interested in this conversation. Like and subscribe. If you're not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, girl, what the fuck? Subscribe. That's a free way to support me and to show that you care about the work that's being done and the exchange that we're having tonight, okay? Ancestors, angels, ascended master spirits, to walk with me. What can we do? Someone doesn't want me to get this message out. Ooh, that was weird. Ancestors, angels, ascended master spirits, to walk with me. Please give us wisdom about how we can heal from this isolation as a community. What wisdom do we need as a community to be able to heal from the broader social, spiritual, and psychological impacts of the isolation that has become normalized within the West at this point? Any wisdom shared is deeply appreciated. This is going to sound dismissive, but go outside. The only way we can heal is by going outside. And this message of going outside is coming up in multiple forms. It's coming up through literally going outside and touching grass. I know that that phrase can feel dismissive to people, but folks are not rooted in the earth enough. In fact, folks have gotten used to avoiding the earth. We want to avoid the elements. We think pollen is too much for us. And for some people it is, right? But we got to go outside. We got to ground and connect with the earth. But the other thing, the other way this message is coming up is that we are not traveling enough anymore. And because we're not traveling enough anymore, we're not seeing enough of other cultures, right? So much of the things that we say and how we speak comes from intellectual short-sightedness. And so it's only going to be through exploration of more of the world that we break out of and heal from this isolation as community. And here's the thing, there's been so much fear mongering that has come up in the last decade or so that people are literally afraid to go outside. They're afraid to travel. They're afraid to trust their fellow man. Strength card is coming up to say we got to meet that challenge in the face and do it scared. Even if it makes us uncomfortable, we got to do that shit anyway, right? The world is too big and too plentiful. And if we are having dissatisfactory experiences of our immediate community, the answer is not to shut down and never come outside. The answer is to explore more of the world until we find our soul tribes, until we see the things that we want for ourselves, right? I have 3 people I know in my life. A former coworker, a soror, and a friend of a family member. All of them have moved to Thailand. 3 different Black people I know who have moved to Thailand. And that may sound random and it may sound weird, but these are people who've traveled enough to understand, okay, this place vibes with the energy that I want for myself. And I can be much more social and I can be much more joyous if I'm here. We have accepted isolation out of fear to explore, and we got to change that shit. But it only changes when we ground ourselves, when we learn to feel emotionally safe in and connected to the earth and the world around us, right? That's the only way that it changes. People have to return back to spiritual practices, even if those spiritual practices don't look like other people's, right? I don't care what religion you practice something. So that you can not only understand your personal power, but feel an attachment to God. One of the consequences of the isolation is that people no longer have faith, right? And I'm not even talking about just faith in God, but faith in themselves. What do we know about the magician? The magician is not just somebody who does magic. It's somebody who understands that they have the tools at their disposal to create change, to engage in alchemy. People will only understand more of their sense of personal power when they understand it in terms of its relationship to God and the spirit world. And there needs to be a reconnection to that, right? Driving ambition through the chariot, emotional logic, and protection, right? What does this mean in terms of how we deal with the isolation? People are giving up on themselves way too easily. Chariot is a card about not giving up on the self. It's about, if you hit a bump in the road, picking yourself back up and getting up and going again. And people need to develop the emotional fortitude to be able to do that, right? There's too much, it's too easy to give up on life in this world. I don't like my experience of working for other people, so I'm just going to give up and become a streamer and never leave my house and order Uber Eats all day. I don't like my experiences of relationship, so I'm just going to give up on dating and I'm going to find an AI girlfriend and I'm going to whack off all day and pretend like that's the same thing as having sex. I don't mean to be vulgar, but that's the reality of the situation. People need to be comfortable with having a negative experience or a stumble and still have the willingness to get up and try again. And they have to develop the emotional fortitude and strength and personal protection to do so, right? Getting hit don't make you a weak ass bitch. Getting sucker punched does not make you weak. Laying down and letting people stomp you out, as opposed to getting up and fighting the fuck back, is what determines whether or not you are a weak or a strong person. There's a lack of emotional fortitude that people just submit and surrender to as a result of the isolation that is not helpful. And people have to start thinking in terms of long-term health. We don't think about isolation in terms of what it has done to our long-term health, right? A lot of people, you have to go outside. You have to get vitamin D. You have to move your body. You have to touch grass. So we throw these things out. Like, go touch grass is the new, you need to go to therapy. So these things have become insult, and people don't understand that this is about being able to have a long life. King of Pentacles is the card of long life. It's early retirement so that you can enjoy your later years. I think isolation lends itself to a self-indulgence. There's an addictive quality to the victimhood of isolation that people aren't interrogating, and they're not thinking about how it's literally cutting their life short. So if people can start thinking about what they need to do to have a long life, and to not just have a long life, but to enjoy good health at the end of that long life, then that will make people really start to break out of the isolation and heal from it. I hope that answered your question, baby. I hope that answered your question. Well, we had a good turnout for a Friday night. This is why I wanted to do it yesterday, because I know Friday night people are usually out and doing stuff. They're not like me in the house on a Friday night praying and making salts and avoiding alcohol. But I am grateful to everybody that was able to tune in tonight. Again, this is probably going to be, I probably won't have the freedom or the time to do another happy hour reading for another couple of weeks. So I'm really glad that we got in and we had the opportunity to have this conversation tonight. Come back Sunday, because there will be a weekly energy reading Sunday. We will be here at 7:30 p.m. EST on Sunday, so that way we can get our get perspective about the week ahead. And that's when I typically do questions, personal questions from the audience. So if you came here tonight expecting me to read the cards on you, I'm sorry, that's not what happy hour is for. But if you want to get a personal reading about a simple question, don't be coming in and asking me to read your ancestral treasury and shit on a live. But if you want to get an answer to a simple question, return on Wednesday when we do the weekly energy reading. I want everybody to be safe. I want everybody to have a great weekend. If you need to book with me, the information is all below. If you want to take advantage of the online course sale where you can get your courses for $11.11, the link is below. If you want to meet up with me while I'm in California doing in-person healing sessions, the link for that is also below. Until Sunday, everybody take care. See y'all later. Bye.